If you were a creator, what type of creator would you be?
YouTube golfer, specifically for YouTube.
Shirt checks out.
Shirt checks out.
Why are we talking about creators? Why do we at HubSpot care about creators?
Yeah. I think B2B is catching up at this point, and folks are asking like, how do I start to work with influencers and what's the right way to do it? So that's what I'm excited about today is we'll actually break down how HubSpot's been working with creators over the last 4 years. And today we have a special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alanah, and I am the head of creator partnerships at HubSpot.
Welcome to Field Notes, where we break down what's happening in marketing.
Alanah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, same here. It's a big topic for us.
It is. It's something everyone is talking about as well.
I think the biggest one you and I always talk about is just like brands seem to treat creators like ad units, right? As like they approach it as like a standard paid program. And that's one of the challenges they're facing. And like what I'm excited to hear from you is how we approach it and like how you structure deals and like you believe that it's really about the partnership piece, right?
It really is. You know, we're talking about humans that, of course, are behind a camera like we are right now. But when we go to them and we want to work with them, we want to figure out what is a mutually beneficial partnership and what does that look like and how can HubSpot be more than just an advertising partner? And because of that, we're able to create really custom, unique partnerships that have really been able to drive a lot of success.
Yeah, well, and I think what you said, Alanah, about that leading to the best editorial, that's really important. If you try to micromanage everything that a creator is doing and stamp your brand all over it, then it's not going to feel like it came from the creator, and then it's not going to resonate with their audience.
I think that's one of the things we've improved over the years is our briefs. Because it's a really delicate balance. You want to give enough direction so the creator knows what they're doing, what your goal is as a brand, so they can well position you within their content. At the same time, you don't want to give too much direction to the point where you're constraining their creative output. Because then it doesn't feel organic like it's supposed to be a part of their feed. Now it feels like an ad, and that's not really going to be successful. So that's going to be a lose-lose situation either way.
I feel like it's also got to come down to the people that you want to partner with in the first place, right? So how do you find the best fit creators?
The first thing you want to start with is, of course, what are our goals? What are our lead KPIs? And that will direct us to the right platform. Once we figure out the right platform, then we're going to figure out, okay, what is our target audience? So for example, are we going after marketing creators or business creators? From there, we're going to actually look at their content because to our point about briefs, if we hire people who we actually like the things that they make, then we don't have to micromanage them. So we want to find creators that are authentically speaking to the points that we want them to, so that our goals kind of fit seamlessly into their content.
If I'm a small business and I have short-term goals of trying to grow the business, generate sales or revenue, or brand building goals, like how do you think about the goal to channel match? Like how do you pick which channels and the influencers on those channels?
Yeah, so we are full funnel, our team is. And so when we look at platforms, we are kind of taking those platforms and fitting them into where they are within those in the funnel. So for example, an awareness play for us could look like Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, more social content. If we're going further down the funnel and we want to generate leads, then we're looking at newsletter and YouTube, places where it's very easy for someone to get to a link, to click through that link and therefore become a lead. So I think as we're looking at KPIs and platforms, we're looking at how people naturally interact with that platform.
That makes a lot of sense. Tactically speaking, how are we finding creators? Are we using tools? Are you literally going to YouTube and looking for relevant creators? Are we talking to our persona?
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on the platform, but ultimately on YouTube, we've been working on YouTube for years now. We not only find creators on the platform, but we also look at the creators that other creators are following, right? What their suggested creators are. I think when it comes to social, there are tons of different tools you can use to find social creators, YouTube including. There's a large number of those tools. So you can always use those to kind of find creators that are on different platforms, are talking through different things. And then we at HubSpot, we've also built a tool using AI to not only help us find creators, but also help us evaluate the creator and take a look at, okay, what is this creator talking about in their channels and how well are they a good fit to Growth Gabby? So we essentially have an AI agent that maps creators back to Growth Gabby and gives my team a score, or like a yellow, green, red light, in terms of how good of a fit that creator specifically is.
But you're not stopping at AI, which I think is what you're saying. Once you've identified a potential fit, then you're doing some of your own due diligence, actually going to their pages, looking at their content to understand, as a potential consumer of the content, does this make sense with HubSpot?
And then I would say we go one step further and we actually have a face-to-face. We
That's
meet
important
with the
too.
creator.
There you go.
Yeah,
You talk to them live.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Our creator success team, led by Marie Shahadi, is really about developing relationships with creators. So we know a little bit more about them. We know about what their goals are, what they're trying to do as a content creator. How can we be helpful to them? But I think in that sourcing call, we're just trying to get a good understanding of their editorial and also who they are as a person.
I think the working relationship is such a critical piece that a lot of brands don't necessarily think about because they're looking for the quick option or tool to help me buy an ad for my campaign next month. But where you're seeing the most success over the last couple of years is just getting on the phone and doing it direct, which is hard to do. One thing that I think's been really smart about your approach is like the test and scale, where it's like, we can't just do one post. Because one post is dependent on the algorithm. It
Right.
could go really well or it could go really poorly.
Yeah.
And the way you've structured things is like these packages, 3 months, 6 months, and then the long-term partnership.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Can you talk about like how you structure those and how you approach the creator? Because I think it's really different.
What we do is we try to sign at least 3 placements. And then we are going to look to those placements and say, okay, 2 out of these 3 placements performed really well. One of them kind of didn't go as great, and we can do one of 2 things at that point. We can do 3 more placements, or we can say, okay, this went really, really well for us. We want to extend this partnership. What would it look like to work for 12 months? And how can we deepen this partnership? So what that could look like is we work with our monetization team and think about, can we make some sort of content with this creator? So that's how we start, is by testing. And then from there, we try to think about, okay, if it's really working, how can we go deeper here and spread this content out for the next year?
The experimental part of it, I think, is really important, and paying close attention to what type of lift you're actually getting from the partnership. Creators, they sit very firmly in the amplify stage of the loop marketing framework that HubSpot has introduced as a way for businesses to grow in an AI first world. But the part around figuring out what's working and then iterating from there, that's very much part of, I think, the evolve philosophy. Alanah, I think what you've called out is probably the most important thing about a successful creator program is really understanding what makes creators tick and working with them as people, not treating them as ad units. You've spent a lot of time with creators learning how to do this, but if anyone watching this wants a shortcut, then they can check out our creator survey. We surveyed over 300 creators on things like value alignment, what they really appreciate about brands, what makes the partnership successful. And so if folks want to check that out, they can scan the QR code, they can click the link in the description. There's a lot of great insights in that survey.
Can you just like give some details around like what does a great piece of content from a B2B creator look like?
A lot of the things that we're doing is we want to help businesses grow and scale. So when we go to a creator, we want to talk about, can you share a roadblock that you hit when you were trying to grow your business? What did that look like for you? How did you get past that challenge? So speaking from your own like authority and voice and experience is going to be really important, because then you can direct your audience to, I had this roadblock. I don't want you to have this roadblock. Here's how I would solve it. And back to us seeing creators as on-demand business mentors, They give strategies. We're responsible for providing tools. That's how I think we complement creators, right? They're saying, here's your 2026 marketing strategies. And we're saying, okay, here is a link to a PDF of all this marketing research or AI prompts you can use to execute on what the creator is saying.
It comes so naturally to you and your team because you've been doing it for so long. And for folks that are like trying to learn how to do this, I think it's like, we need to know the creator who reaches the right audience, right? Almost let the creator be your creative director. Like ask them the question, what content should I be making for your audience? Because they know best. And then first person perspective. I think that's such a big one, as like you send people a brief and you want it to be like a host read ad for a campaign and it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like a value add, and that's when they miss it.
I think that's a really good summary, Kyle. And the other things that I was getting from what you were saying, Alanah, were authenticity and vulnerability. And regardless of whether you're B2B, B2C, I think those are some of the elements of the best performing creator partnerships. And it feels like the creator is letting you in on something. And then whatever they are partnering or pairing that with, you're like, oh, I really want to check that out because I feel like I trust you.
At the end of the day, we have to report up to the business, report up to leadership. How is this working? We ran the Loop marketing campaign. We spent a little bit of money with some creators. How do you think about measurement?
Typically, whenever we get a campaign or a product, we have a primary KPI, and for us, that's going to be reach or demand. As we're looking at creators within our awareness plays, we're going to look at CPM. That's going to give us how cost efficient this buy is and where we fall in the market. So how are we doing across, like, if the market average is a $25 CPM, where are we landing? That's going to give us some comparative kind of evaluation as to how well we're doing. So we're always going to look at, by platform for awareness. For Instagram, it would be like views, and same thing for LinkedIn and YouTube. We're going to look at how many people are watching this. Once we get into demand, lower into the funnel, we are looking at, okay, how many leads did this creator generate for us? And then what is the cost per lead? It's going to do the same thing as CPM does. It gives us a comparative value, and it allows us to not only compare against the market, but compare against integrations. How well did this YouTube integration do versus this one? Also compare across creators. How well is this creator performing versus this partnership? And then also platform. How well is YouTube performing against newsletters? So as we look at those numbers, that will give us a clue there. But then we also go a little bit deeper into revenue. So how much revenue is the creator actually generating for our program? And that is also going to tell us where they kind of fall in our marketing funnel. So we're going to look at that and be able to make some decisions, and definitely be able to communicate with leadership as to how well we're doing and how cost efficient the buy is. And hopefully they'll just continue giving us more money.
That's always the goal.
That's always the goal.
Right? The continued investment.
And I think before you ever get to the revenue aspect of creator partnerships, you have to understand what makes a good creator partnership, which is why I think folks should check out our creator survey. Again, we talk to a bunch of creators to understand what really makes creators tick and what's really going to foster those productive relationships. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. We have saved the best for last. We've reached our final segment, the last word, where we share our potentially controversial, always hot takes on marketing. And Alanah, you were up first. You've got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I'm timing you.
Strict 30.
Strict 30.
My last word is: a social media manager and an influencer marketer are two different professions.
Say it louder.
Those are two different professions. If you have a social media manager, is really a brand initiative, right? You want to bring your brand voice to life. An influencer marketer is someone that knows how to work with creators. They are not the same thing, and you can't blend the two really that well. That's my hot take.
Very
two different things.
Sets. I love that. Asia, we need your last word.
All right, my last word is that we should all be posting a little less on LinkedIn. And I base this off of my feed. When I look at my feed, the average LinkedIn post is really generic. It's really boring. It's something unrelated to business that pivots into business at the very last sentence. And I think that you should only be sharing on LinkedIn if you have something to say, if you have something valuable and original and insightful. And for most people, that is not going to be once a day. It's probably more like once a quarter.
Well done. 1 second to spare. Yeah, they got to get off the content hamster wheel.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't need a post every week, especially if there's nothing there.
Especially if you're just using ChatGPT to write it.
Yeah, M- is everywhere.
Kyle, I'm really excited to hear your last word. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready to go.
All right.
All right, so my last word is that brands need to stop doing competitive research against other brands. They need to start looking at creators and publishers. If you want to win in the content game, you have to understand topics and hooks and creative and getting people's attention. There's a reason that no one's engaging with your brand page, especially on LinkedIn. And so for me, whenever we do our research, whenever we put together our content strategies, publishers and creators are the ones we're pulling from and starting to work that in.
Wow. Perfectly timed. Thank you so much, Alanah. This was a blast and we learned a lot.
I could talk about the creator economy anytime and for forever. So I loved this conversation. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Asia. This has been Field Notes.
I'm Kyle. We'll see you next time.